When you wrote the book, was it aimed at clinicians, laymen like me, or trauma victims, or all of the above?
I have to say, the minute you said that, my husband comes to mind. Obviously, he knows me better than anybody and knows my passion and what I'm trying to do, and he said, don't write it for clinicians. And I don't like writing for clinicians anyway. I just don't. I prefer not to do that. In our conversation, you know, when you start a project like this, it's a project. There's lots of conversations, and mine were with my husband, and very clear in what I wanted to do. I was writing for the people who needed to know there was a way to heal. I was writing to help people understand things happen in our life that are beyond our control, that affect how we are. And yes, there are things we can do about it. I did not want to write another book for another clinician to say, well, that's a nice idea, let's move on to the next.
This book is one of 4 that you're writing. You're writing a series of books. The second that you released this past December is aimed at primarily children, I imagine, dealing with the loss of a loved one. And now you have 2 more that you're working on now, dealing with suicide and also recovery. Mm-hmm. And so all 4 books, you've become quite the proficient author here in the past few years. So the next 2 books, tell us about those that are coming out.
Can we just step back for a
Sure,
moment
absolutely.
on where do we come from?
Yeah.
It looks like it's a children's book. It's a multi-generational book intended for adults and children alike to travel through together, because at the heart of any loss, even for an adult, we are a child. And so often looking for a way to find some comfort, some understanding of losing people we love and what that might mean and where they might be. So it looks like a children's book, but it's really meant for both.
And it's wonderfully illustrated.
Aren't they? The illustrator we have is amazing. She's absolutely amazing. It amazes me when someone has that gift to take my words, say this is what I think and this is what I think I see. What do you see? And to have those images come back to me is so powerful. I just love her work. Actually, she did the cover for the next book, Fractured Spirit, The Soft Side of Suicide. She did an incredible cover, and that was one that I didn't think we were going to be able to bring together, because I had such a strong sense not only of how I wanted it to look, but all my work it's how I want it to feel. Before you touch it, I want you to feel something when you see it. And I thought,
looking at it right now, what do you think people will feel from looking at the cover of the book?
Wow. That's what I think. I think it's going to be like a wow, and then like you have to pick it up and look at it. Well, I don't know. Today so many people look on Amazon, that's where we see covers, you know. But if it's in your hand or in a bookstore, I think they're going to look at it and lean in, because I think she did a wonderful job of demonstrating what I'm trying to say. And having one side where we are well, we are imbalanced, we're okay, everything's working, and the other side shows as we fall away. And that is the challenge to the topic of suicide. And my work there is, I'm very passionate about that, and I'm trying again to change the culture and the conversation away from the concept that anytime we lose somebody to suicide, it's a standard framework. You know the phrases, you've heard them. He or she is a suicide. They took their own life. They killed themselves. They wanted to die. And that is why we don't understand why we lose people. And my work, again, is going beyond that into the experience of what it means to struggle between 2 worlds. I mean, we're sitting here today, we both look okay, like whatever's going on, we can deal with it. No one's worried about us. But on another day, I could be looking fine, and that's not true. Within and around me, within my experience, that is changing, and we become fragile and disconnected from the world that is important to us. And I think if we can start to look at people who struggle this way, we will have a better understanding everyone's always wondering, why do we keep losing people? We have millions of dollars in research, fantastic research, I might add, fantastic research, but there's something missing. And this is the piece that I'm trying to focus on. It's not as complicated as we think it is, and I think that the first step in changing our conversation and our perception, we always look at people who have these struggles and we lose them in this way as different from us. Like, wow, how'd that happen to them? That could never happen to me. Well, that's the quiet truth. It can happen to every single one of us. And until we start to understand that this is an element of it's the physical, spiritual experience that we all have, and everybody's different, but something can shift at any time for all of us. This is not unique to broken people. This is something that could happen to anyone. And I think if we can start to change that, then we will have a better idea about how we help people. Where I see the struggle is in classic suicide, and there's nothing wrong with it because it gives us a framework. You know, this is what suicide looks like, this is what we see, this is what this means. You do need that. But that is classic, and there's so much that falls beyond that. And here, it's you want to die, you don't want to die. You want to take your life, you don't. Bad day, good day. In my world, and in my view, we're in a different place. We have people who are trying very hard to hold on. And like if you look at that dragonfly, you can see one side is like solid there. You look at the other side, something's changing. They're losing their ability to hold on for a multiple set of reasons that are unique to them, but not to say we don't all share those struggles. And at some point that shifts. And where we think we're trying to stop somebody from killing themselves or taking their life, we lose them because we don't understand what we should be doing is trying to help them hold on. People come to a point after a while where they are simply letting go. And that's very hard for all of us, but it is, I believe, a reality for many people. And there is room in there. There is room in there to help people and hold on. But every once in a while, you are going to find someone who is simply letting go. And that is very different from saying this is a suicide or they are suicidal. There's a big difference between being suicidal and letting go, or being suicidal and trying to hold on. And it is this ambiguous gray world that I am trying to, in a sense, force us to consider a different perspective on what is, we all know, a national epidemic.
And then your fourth book talks about grief and recovery from grief?
The companion book to Fractured Spirit will look very much like Where Do We Come From, Where Do We Go? Mm-hmm. Because we want to illustrate the concepts that we're talking about in Fractured Spirit. We want to illustrate someone who just cannot reach out. Mm-hmm. We want to show that you can recognize when someone is feeling like that. And even if you're feeling like that and you are not asking me to be there, that I learn to understand what we're looking at, and whether you ask me to or not, I'm going to reach over and I'm going to say, I'm here, hold on. Hold on, that's the name of it, hold on, I'm listening. And we wanted a visual representation of that, because sometimes people understand what they see much more than what they read. So we want to do it as a companion book to it. Again, for adults and children alike, it's a tough subject to talk about. People lose people they love this way. But we also need to help those who are left behind find some level of understanding and a way to go on in their own life. And without that understanding, it'd be very impossible, difficult to do that. So we want to bring them together. Because we were so happy with Where Do We Come From? We said, again, that was my husband's idea. Let's do the companion book. Let's do the companion book. And same person's on board for that, and I can only imagine what she's going to be able to gift us with when she's done.
Fractured Spirit is coming out end of this year or early next year?
We're hoping for February 10th, 2020.
And the proceeds from your books are going to help fund the Shywin Center for Trauma and Healing. Tell us a little bit about that and who you help.
The other part of our work and what we do and what we're trying to get out there is we all do trainings, also do trainings and workshops, and in an effort to help other people expand their understanding of any of these topics, to add to what they already know, to suggest that you might want to take what we offer and put it into what you're already doing and find a different way to do the work that you do. All of these are forms of trauma, and that's my passion, trauma. I'm a trauma specialist. That's what I love to do. So through Shywin Center, we want to help other people who work in rape and sexual assault, grief and loss, people who specifically work in suicide, are special people because not everybody can do it. So if that is what your calling is and what your passion is, we also want to say we're here to offer, additional information and training to you to do that, and speaking engagements and things like that. Any way that we can get our work out there to help other people to do that is what is our goal at Shywin Center.
Your books are available on Amazon, and where else can people find
They're
your
on
books?
Amazon. They're all available on Amazon right now.
Dr. Kathleen Carter-Martinez, thank you very much for taking the time to be with us.
Thank you for having me here.